Of all the legendary guitar players who have graced the instrument with their unique touch, who would be on the Mount Rushmore of guitarists? Who are the 4 players that stand above the rest as icons, inspirations, and innovators? I'm going to attempt to place 4 guitarists in that position as the greatest of the greats, the ones who have inspired, influenced, and changed the guitar world as we know it. Not necessarily the most technical players or the most famous, something in between where when you think of guitar legends, these guys come to mind. The first on the Mount Rushmore is obviously Jimi Hendrix. Be honest, you knew he would be here. And of course he is, because when it comes down to it, no one has really influenced guitar or changed the instrument more than Hendrix did. He's responsible for so many modern guitarists playing the way they do. He falls into that category of the before and after guitarist, and what I mean by that is there's a handful of players who defined the guitar in such a way that there was a clear cultural shift before and after them coming onto the scene. And Hendrix is certainly one of those players. Perhaps he's the quintessential example of that type of player. He is the game changer on the guitar. Aside from his influence, he's also just an excellent player. He cultivated many techniques and styles of playing that defined his unique voice on the guitar. Not to mention his innovative use of pedals, which added immense nuance to his playing that just took it to another level compared to what other people were doing at the time. If you've ever doubted his technical prowess and ability on the guitar, I would challenge you to look up a tab for one of his more popular solos, and you will see the incredibly subtle details that separate him from other guitarists. So all things considered, he's become the face of guitar and is often referenced as the greatest, and therefore obviously deserves a place on the guitarist Mount Rushmore. Next on the Mount Rushmore, I would have to put Eric Clapton. And I realize that this might actually be a little more controversial than Hendrix, but Clapton has also had one of the most remarkable guitar careers that has ever been. He's clearly a huge influence on a lot of modern guitar players, and kind of shaped the sound of that 60s, 70s, blues-influenced rock and roll. Clapton falls less into the category of before and after of his career, but he falls more into the category of guitarists that are known despite their name not really appearing early in their career. And what I mean by that is, he was a member of the Yardbirds, John Mayall and the Bluesbreakers, Cream, and Derek and the Dominos, and still, everyone knew who Eric Clapton was, despite his name not being plastered on the front of whatever he was involved in. More importantly though, he perhaps has some of the greatest phrasing of all time. There's a reason everyone knows his guitar work. There's a reason everyone knows his iconic guitar riffs and songs. And not just the guitar community, but everyone knows Eric Clapton and knows his guitar work. He's just known as a guitar player, and has been the face of guitar for a long time now. I think he's the closest thing we'll get in our lifetimes to someone who just represents the instrument and has represented it for a long time. He's a living, breathing embodiment of guitar. Now, does that mean that he's the absolute greatest? Absolutely not. But when you're a guy who's been involved in pretty much every guitar festival ever, and you've started your own in the Crossroads Guitar Festival, and when you're a guy who has a signature model, signature sound, and a massive fan base just for being a guitarist, it's hard to leave someone like that off of the Mount Rushmore of guitar players. I think if you're going to make a Mount Rushmore of guitar players, you have to have a primarily blues player in the list, and in this case, it's going to be Stevie Ray Vaughan. While he primarily focused on blues, he was so versatile and he could play any genre or style. And when it comes to impact, he revitalized blues in the early 80s. And it was a blues revitalization like no one had really seen before. Blues were kind of left to die in the late 70s, and when Stevie Ray Vaughan hit the scene, it brought back blues to the pop world, brought back players whose careers were kind of on the outs. So in terms of his influence on the guitar world, I think it's safe to say that he had some of the biggest influence on blues guitar playing of all time. When it comes to his ability on the guitar, he was one of a kind. When it came to his tone and speed, no one could really play the way he did. He is so instantly recognizable with both his speed and his tone, which is partly due to his thick gauge strings. So his playing is obviously among the best ever, especially in blues. But what I think is even cooler about Stevie Ray Vaughan is he had such a style about him. He embodied what his guitar playing was. And Stevie Ray Vaughan falls into that category of guitarists who kind of define themselves as a guitarist and built their own act around that. Similar to how Hendrix built the Experience, Stevie Ray Vaughan built Double Trouble. And his guitar playing was the core of his music, and was the reason that he became so popular, both in music generally and among the guitar community. So that confluence of being great on the instrument, and just being an excellent musician overall, and creating music that highlighted his guitar playing, lands him a spot on the Guitar Mount Rushmore. A Guitar Mount Rushmore would not be complete without Eddie Van Halen, who is one of the most influential and impactful guitarists of all time. Like Hendrix, he falls into that category of before and after, because he changed the game so much. There's very clear before Eddie guitar playing and after Eddie guitar playing. The guy was that influential and innovative on the guitar that he kind of changed how people played collectively. Perhaps a better way to put it is that he changed the idea of what people could even do on the guitar. We're talking about a guy who built his own guitar out of a bunch of other guitars. His whole career kind of revolves around pushing the envelope and doing things differently than other people have done in the past. From his iconic tapping technique to his unique use of the whammy bar, he's among one of the more unique sounding guitarists of all time. He falls into that category of guitarist where if you hear him play, you immediately know it's him. He might be the most distinct guitar player that's ever lived. Despite the band having part of his name, like Clapton, he was the standout in the band. Unlike Hendrix and Stevie Ray Vaughan, who built their own bands, he was just involved in a band, but was absolutely the most important and most distinct part of that band. And that speaks to his playing because it's not common that the guitarist is more known than the lead singer. But that is absolutely the case in Van Halen. There are guitar players who were in a band, and there were guitar players who were the band, and Eddie Van Halen was the band Van Halen. So considering his influence and his innovation and his standout playing, there's no doubt that Eddie Van Halen deserves a spot on the guitar Mount Rushmore. So there you have it. If I had to carve 4 faces into a Mount Rushmore of guitarists, those are the guys I would pick. Jimi Hendrix, Eric Clapton, Stevie Ray Vaughan, and Eddie Van Halen. I think that there are arguments for other players, but if I had to pick 4, those are the ones I would go with. I'm sure there are different opinions out there, so please leave a comment with the 4 guitars you would carve into your guitarist Mount Rushmore.